Good morning. It's Friday, March 7th. It's a little after 10:30. This is our one of our two monthly public broadband committee meetings. This is the first meeting of the month, so we'll be looking at the report for the month of February, which just ended, gosh, just last Friday. We'll also take some time to look at a few other questions on the agenda that I sent around a couple of days ago. I'm going to share my screen and just start with the agenda document, and then we'll go to the presentation deck in a minute. So I want to, let's see, move that this way. We'll do some introductions. I have just a policy update I want to share regarding installations, review the March 25 report, the deck, talk about some other items on here, and then executive session. I added to the agenda, which we might use at the end of the meeting as needed. So we'll start with our mission. Do we have a volunteer to read the mission of Trident Fiber?
I'll read it, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Our mission is to provide reliable, affordable, high-speed, fiber-based internet access. We offer state-of-the-art technology and unmatched customer service.
So you get to do a lot of customer service, Tracy. What's your experience been last month with seeing the mission of the project in action?
Well, obviously, we've slowed down considerably in the last couple of weeks, but I think that for the most part, we've been very active at getting people signed up and on the schedule almost as soon as they get on the sign-up sheet. It's pretty amazing. For a long time, it was a case of let's go find them. We got to talk to them 45 times. Now it's like people have gotten the message and they're ready to go.
Yeah, we've definitely slowed down a number of new parcels we're adding this last month or so. However, there are a lot of parcels that are in the green. We'll look at that in the report. So based on the customer count, a little over 300, and the parcels over 1,600, there's a lot of opportunity out there with our current green zone, even while we're pausing on construction. I was going to use this time to introduce Vantage Point, but they're not yet on the call. I had a meeting with them and construction team at 9:30. So Vantage has got right to work. We'll talk about that in the deck. I wanted to just share this policy update before we go into the presentation deck for the month of February, which is for new Dryden Fiber customers who have selected Dryden Fiber to replace another service with whatever they have with Dryden Fiber for their broadband internet. Our policy is to leave all equipment from any and all prior providers in place. This should include, but not limited to, NIDs, fiber drops, conduit, modems, attachment screws. We can install our equipment next to or near other equipment. If a Dryden Fiber customer, resident or business, decides to remove the equipment on their own, they can, but we're not going to assist in removing other equipment. Any questions about this policy or feedback?
Has that come up as an issue? I'm
It
assuming
did.
for them for it to be there.
That's of course the best first question, which is why are we talking about this? We did some installs and another provider was like, "Don't touch our stuff. That's our stuff." Like, all right, we'll make sure that we know that we're not going
to. I mean, I think yes, I think it's a perfectly reasonable policy. It's something that should be there. I'm just wondering if I was just curious if it actually came up, and it sounds like it did. So
I thought it was going to be the opposite, where somebody was saying, "Take all this junk away. I don't want it anymore." You know,
we shouldn't touch it, and we also don't want to deal with taking it and then having it in our possession. We have enough stuff already. We don't need more stuff.
Yeah, we shouldn't be taking anything away. There's no question. And
no, that's
even helping them disconnect it. I think you're right. I think it's really up to them to work with their other provider to
or clean it up themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah. The only question that I had about is, where's the demarc? So there's some customer stuff. So you were able to disconnect the cable. They wanted to use the same cable hole, for instance, instead of you drill another hole in the house. If they pull that out, we could do it, but probably shouldn't be pulling it out. But there's some customer stuff. It really depends where the demarc is on the thing. So usually it's on the outside, not actually on the inside. But
Right.
Yeah, usually.
but,
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about holes,
yeah.
and you're using the same hole.
Mm.
Um, I think at a higher level, it's leave their equipment. If they want to come back and rescue their equipment, take it with them, they should be able to find it where they left it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the report for the month. All right. Is that displaying?
Yep.
Great. All right. So a high-level executive summary for month of February, or as of today, we signed our agreement with Vantage Point Solutions on February 13th, which this team, this Broadband Public Committee already knew about. They've been very active. February 23rd, 27th, they were in person on site doing an audit of all things Dryden fiber. They actually continued there here this week. I think Tony mentioned they were up off Sims Hill Road.
Yeah, I saw them on Sims
Continuing.
Hill, so they're still around. Yep.
They're doing a deep dive. They're looking at everything, handholds, MSTs, locations, fiber. On February 28th, they provided a preliminary report and a request for a 10 to 14 day construction stoppage to halt construction and splicing work during deeper evaluation and potential design changes. They saw enough in the first 4 days on site to say we need to let's look at what we're doing and make sure what we're doing going forward is right. And whatever metaphor you want to use, we don't want to dig the hole any deeper until we know that we're not digging a deep hole. We want to go in the right direction, not just go faster. They're also, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say this approach, I mentioned the audit the last time or whatever. This is really good what they're doing. So it makes me feel good that at least we've had another set of engineering eyes look at this and give us some feedback on it. So they're doing the right thing. It's what I feel. So
It is the right thing. I really like what we've seen from them so far, and I'm glad to see they're doing it. I don't like the fact that they are calling this stoppage right when they're in the middle of doing Hanford Drive.
We did talk about that briefly this morning. All right, so
Don't
yeah,
it's not an issue. I'm like,
Tony,
you
Tony
did it
and I
on
talked.
purpose, Tony. I just
This
want to
is
let you
not-
know.
I know,
We're not. I was like, how close can we get to Tony without actually ever getting to this? I feel like Lucy with the football.
Yeah, we're just gonna surround his property with green. I love it.
We already have. I did speak with them this morning with Sean and Lon from Syracuse Utilities. We will be meeting with them next week between Wednesday and Friday, the 12th and the 14th, with a go forward action plan. That's when managers will give their state of where we are and the plan to go forward. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
it'll be they're doing work to make this.
Yep.
They're also doing a bunch of other things in the project that I want to share. Permit review, both all of our existing permits, which there are 12, all the MIP project permits, all review. So making sure that we're requesting the right poles in the right places in the right of way, that we're not spending money on any pole permitting that we're never going to use. They're also doing design review, looking at KMZ files to see the fiber size, making sure that we have enough fiber for the future, looking through KMZ files. They also did an audit on our website. They have a team doing that. And a couple of days ago, Amanda and I met with a member of their finance team who looks at how do ISPs that work with Vantage figure out their finances and their long-term maintenance costs. So they've been very available to help us across the board to just make an entire better product for us.
They really seem to be hitting the ground running. It's really, really good to see.
And
Yeah,
Dave,
ahead.
are they also looking at the pops? I assume. I think I'm pretty sure they are too as well. So
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Municipal infrastructure program update. We are still awaiting the final grant disbursement agreement, the GDA. Once we receive it, it'll have already been signed by Empire State Development. Then Jason will sign it. Then we'll go back for the signature of Josh Breitbart, who's the executive for the Connect All office. And then we'll have that piece done, which gives us the next bullet. A signed GDA allows us to begin submit milestone details for construction, as well as receipts and canceled checks, so we can request reimbursement. Currently, we're holding on the first reimbursement request, both because we don't have a GDA, but also part of the milestones are the design documents, which up until a month ago were designed by Hunt. We're going to have to submit new design documents based on the work from Vantage. This means that the GDA reimbursement, which we already were expecting to be 5 to 6 months from when we submit it, to continue being delayed, probably into sometime in the late Q3, early Q4, September, October, November payment. Any questions on MIP?
Dave, have they said when they expect to provide the GDA? Have they given us a commitment on that? Or?
Every synonym for eminently that I could think of that I've heard from them, it's just not here yet.
Okay.
As soon as possible. We're working, like it's in the last checklist. Like we're like it's. I think they have a lot of hoops to move through to get the final piece done. It's a 90+ page document. I'm sure every team that's contributed to that has to do another review, or it's just in a stack waiting to get signed. There are 26 MIP projects to date. I've only heard of one being signed, and that's the grant disbursement agreement for Southern Tier Network down in Corning. I don't think I haven't heard from any of the other 25 have been signed yet.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
I don't think we're an outlier. I think this is their first time going through all this.
Okay.
Let's talk about the service. We're now able to serve 1,729 parcels, which is just about 30% of the town. On February 24th, we added 56 locations in the village of Dryden on West Main, Hilton, Goodrich, Monroe, and Hillcrest. Of those 56, Tracy from Gleeman immediately goes through the list of everyone who's already signed up, cross-references the new list. We had 13 people who had already pre-registered from that group, which is a pretty solid take rate, about 25%. Brings us to the next number, which is we now have 336 paying customers as of March 1st, which is a 42 net gain for February. We also had 65 inbound requests in February. Something that I thought you should know is that we did have an outage from Windstream, one of our backhaul providers that brings the internet in and out of the town's network. It was at 3 p.m. on the 25th. This was outside of our network equipment, and a remote cabinet for Windstream had an issue. Our network automatically moved to First Light, which is our other backhaul connection at the central office. I believe no customers even knew this happened. If you were using internet, you wouldn't have. It happened. The turnaround, the technology we put in place, that NetTegrity has put in place for us, is so strong that you wouldn't even seen this blip, and it came back on and everything was fine. But I want to let everyone know, like, these things will happen. This is why we have a ring network, and this is why we have 2 backhaul providers. And finally, Amanda, do you want to share the last bullet?
Sorry, it delayed on me. Yes, so on the 26th of February, Thomas Becker from the USDA came, inspected, had to look at town hall for compliance, but also sat with us in our operations meeting. Then Scott from NetTegrity, Tracy, and Dave took him on a short drive around some of our facilities. He also spent 10 minutes with me to get the proper documentation for the ARC grant. And then on Friday, no, maybe Monday. I think it was Monday, Dave. But anyways, we had a deposit in our bank account for the ARC grant. And Dave will tell you I yelled because I was glad to see it. So that's that was a long process, just multiple people and switching hands. So that was a grant that we had gotten back in 2021. And those funds have come through. And it was basically funding the backbone area.
Wasn't that around $600,000? Is that what I recall?
Yep, it's 624, 614.
Awesome.
The turnaround on that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was a little, that's why I think I yelled, because it's like, oh my gosh, it's here.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that.
I think part of it was Mr. Becker is retiring, so I think he was kind of just pushing stuff through to finish before he retired, probably to save his next person from having to pick up where he left off.
Thanks, Amanda. It was really great to show off what has been done so far. We showed him the central office. He took some pictures. We drove out to the Freeville Pop. We just like, this is the trail. He took a picture of the trail. We went to the Freeville Pop. He took a picture of the pop. Scott opened it up so we could see inside. There's flashing lights, so he took a picture of the flashing lights inside the boxes inside the cabinet. He took another picture of the trail from that angle. We drove to Pinckney Road. So the central office, the Freeville Pop, and the Pinckney Road Pop were all paid for by this, as well as the fiber under the rail trail from the village of Dryden to Freeville and from Freeville back to Pinckney. So we took some more pictures of the rail trail and then the Pinckney Road Pop. And then we asked him if he wanted to have lunch with us, and he said, I got to go. I got a thing in Tiger County. So he left. But all that work, it's impressive to like open up those handholds, and there's all our network right there. And it's good to get this last piece of funding wrapped up. Thank you, Tracy, and Scott's not on today, for joining me on that tour.
It was a pleasure.
All right, thanks. We'll do a little deeper dive into what happened in the month. This was the draft goals I presented back in January. It showed that we were aiming at 65 per month, which would put us at 367 by the end of February. We're at 336. So we're off where we planned or had a goal. There's still demand. And as I said at the top of the call, still a lot of green zones that don't have customers signed up. So we can continue to make progress. Even with the construction slowdown, there's a lot of green zone houses where we could provide service. We'll be talking about moving marketing in that direction over the next few months to go deeper into the parts of the town where we already have service. Talk about MIP already pretty substantially. This is a new scoreboard I've started making for MIP. This is the draft of this. Right now, we have 22 months to go. We have about 73% of the time of the project left. As far as what we've done so far, we have reached 210 of the 2,700 parcels, and we have serviced, or we brought fiber to 34 of the 400 that are part of the project. So 8.5% of what for installations. We've completed about 10 miles of about 150. And as far as the unserved and underserved, I don't have those numbers yet, but I'll have those by next month. So we are making some progress, and the goal should be on this that we have 100% in all the blue boxes by the end of next year. We've reached all the parcels we planned on reaching. We've done all the installations that they're funding. We've completed all the miles, and we've reached all the unserved and underserved homes in the project space.
And I'm assuming this is for both Dryden and Caroline, right?
This is for both Dryden and Caroline.
Yeah.
I can do a spliced out version that just shows each town.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think we need that.
Cool. Any questions on the scoreboard draft?
I like it.
I like it too.
It's hard to believe we're already through 27% of the time. We're on our way though. All right, let's look at some team updates, starting with customer base with Amanda.
Okay, so you can see here we had 42 installs for the month of February. No changes. I know in previous years we've had some change levels or leave, none of that. So consistent, maybe not as high as we had goaled, but still consistent installations for February when it was very cold, very snowy. So that's the basics. Any questions?
I have 5 new platinums. That's great. I think that's the most platinums we've had in 1 month.
Yes.
Feels like it.
Yeah.
Good. It's hard to believe we have 28, and that's not even 10% of all customers. That's good. All right. Let's go to the next slide that lets me see. So I've taken off most of the slides from engineering for this month because it's just, we haven't had any updates. I did send a high level request plan to Vantage about what we'd like to see in their slides. I'm going to be meeting with Brad next week. So by the time we get to the first Friday of April, we'll have reports from engineering. This has up to date as much as I could make it up to date from what we know happened for construction that we were able to convert into live houses, which is adding 56 parcels. This should say as of March 1st. Coverage is increased, as I said at the top of the call, to 29%. No new aerial this month. It was all splicing that was turned and completed. Highland, Hilton, and Goodrich are now live. Other construction is on hold pending the audit. In the next 2 weeks, audit and assessment, and then Vantage Point kickoff session with the construction team to dive deeper into what it looks like for the next 2 years, but ultimately the next 6 months, the next 3 months, and the next month. I don't think this slide will change very much in the next 30 days. I don't know that we're going to be adding very much to the green zone until we start construction back up. Any questions here?
Dave, do you know, are they, I'm assuming they're looking at the underground work too?
Yep. Yeah, they're looking at in all the handholds. The first day they were here, which was last Monday, the 24th, everything was frozen and snowy and they couldn't get the handholds open. So the warmer weather has helped make it a lot easier for the audit.
Okay, because outside of this meeting, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what they did up here, but we'll take a look at that.
Cool.
One of the handholds is sitting in a whole lot of water.
It'll be good, good for conversation with Vantage. All right, installations. Tracy?
Yeah, as Dave said, we had 42 done this month, and amazingly, Amanda and I agreed. There was still 32 pending as of the first of the month. Our installation blockers, frozen ground obviously is still an issue, but the DLX situation has sort of resolved itself. We did get a few of them DLX cables. If anybody wants to know what that all means, I can enlighten you. But there supposedly was another 40 of them that shipped yesterday, and another 40 are going to ship next Thursday. So we should have everything we need to do any installations necessary for the next month or so, 2 months. As you all know, late last year, Rick Young gave us another Connex to utilize at the town highway department. That Connex is now full. There's no more room in that Connex to put any equipment. And it's all installation stuff that Clarity uses. And Clarity actually took a bunch of new stuff that came in last week, cables, NIDs, and so on, and they are now storing those at their location because we don't have any more room. So installation equipment is here. We should be in good shape. Hopefully we can get moving and get things going here. Any questions?
So Clarity has storage capacity, I guess.
Yes, they actually have several Connexes at their location that are not being utilized right now. So they were able to help us out with that. They've been extremely helpful with everything. Eric is like, he's a godsend, to be honest with you.
Great, thank you.
Right, so do they have a way to make sure, like, other Clarity installers that don't work with Dryden Fiber don't use that? Is it like separate locks, or just curious, just to make sure, you know, all of material starts to look the same? And if you have a new guy on, is there just a way that they can watch that, or?
I don't know the answer to that. I can find out. We are keeping track of what they have at their facility as well as what is at the town of Dryden. So we have a record of all the stuff that they're taking, and how they're utilizing it. And I ask, Eric has been good about giving me an update on that inventory at their location regularly. So
Okay.
I don't think it's
Okay.
an issue, but it's a
Okay.
good question.
Tom
Well,
and
this
Eric
is-
here.
Yes, Tom, it is in a separate container and a separate lock system, so we're keeping it completely separate from anything else we're doing.
There
We
you
have
go.
multiple containers here.
There's the answer. Thanks, Tom. All right. Right to financial reporting.
So I've updated this for February, and then you can see I have one column now for 25 year to date. So you see on here, customer subscriptions from billing in February. Other revenue sources is the when we received our band money, the town puts it in our savings vehicle, New York Class, which earns about 4%, 4 to 4.5% interest. So you're going to start to see that other revenue sources right now monthly will probably be interest. Expenses, obviously the grants receivable ARC on the balance sheet side will come off next month because it came in March. And obviously the accounts payable is still an estimate because we're still working through what we owe for the month. So any questions?
If I look at this, I just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. If I look at this, customer subscriptions was 30,600. Operations was 23,761. So if you take construction and installations out,
So that's going to be a little, it's really close, but it's a little misleading. Dave,
Okay.
can you go to the next slide? I think it's the slide. So be careful how you read that, because number one, did I miss a number? So I'll go back and check that. Number two, we have to remember installations almost has to fall in there. That's just why it's a separate line.
yeah, that's
So we're still not quite there yet. So it's very possible I missed an entry in that one. So I'm gonna have to go back and fix that for next month. But I updated this slide, this chart for revenue and operating expenses for each month. So we did have a large, I would say a little more of a steady incline in February because we had semi-annual pole rental payment due to NYSEG. So every pole that we attach to, we will owe NYSEG a semi-annual rental fee.
And semi-annual is twice a year?
Yes. And
Yeah,
obviously, as we add more poles, it's going to go up.
Yep.
We put that as part of the monthly expense. Ideally, most monthly expenses like whatever divided by 12. But factually, like that's once a year. There was something else. Oh, electrical
Billing.
from
The
NYSEG
billing
is
program is once a
billing
year.
program. So
Yeah.
like there'd be some spikes in the
Yeah,
operating
that,
expenses.
that makes sense. Yep.
Yeah.
So we're not quite there yet. Okay, that's what I was looking at on the other
Yeah.
table was,
So I
but
think
right,
what's happening-
installation.
yeah,
So on
you're
this
adding-
line, and on this line, are you including the operational expenses on this line? Are you including installations?
No, they are not included on this. So I think if you stop and think about it, yes, it was 14,000, 16,000, that's 30. And then if we say 20,000, just under 20,000 for January, and it was about 23,000 for February. So we're close, but not quite. I think I messed it. I have a formula there I need to correct. So I think that's, or some things fell in accounts payable and got counted in 2024 is the other thing. It's very possible.
Yep.
So again,
Okay.
we're in that weird end of year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
All right. I made this a little bit bigger. Do you want to cover any of these things, Tracy?
As well, everything slowed down, so it's I'm not going out and seeking anybody right this minute. I have reached out to everybody that's on the sign up sheet that was been contacted and they have not responded. I continually do that every 2 or 3 weeks. When I did it this time, I think I got 6 responses. So there's like 35 people that have signed up, and then we don't ever hear from them again. So we reach out to them and say, hey, we can do this for you, but they're not ready yet. So I keep staying on top of those people, and as I do it, it works. I get a few more every single time. I can't wait for it to be Tony that doesn't respond so I can reach out to him 13 times and say, hey, are you ready to do this yet?
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Soon, very soon. All right. Thanks, Tracy.
Now, Tracy, you had a note there that you would work with Ryan. We're working on a resolution, sorry, on this 1062. Do we need to restart those conversations with Vantive?
No, we have not. I have not talked with anybody about any of these opportunities that are out there, including 1062 and Carl Westerling and so on and so forth. All those things need to be resolved until they get their feet on the ground. They got more important things to worry about right this minute, I think, than these little seemingly small issues. But I still have reached out to a number of tenants. I think we have a total of 25 tenant agreements now from landlords. So I continue to do that. They sign up and they're like, oh, well, I can get this done right away. And I'm like, well, you can't, because you got to get the landlord to say yes before we can do that. And sometimes that's piece of cake, and sometimes it's a multiple scenario where you got to talk to people 14 times before they finally say, okay, yeah, I got it. Any other questions?
Dan, hand raised.
Yeah, Tracy, just along those lines, we had a legislative request, and I've been meaning to circle back with our state reps about that regarding, having equal treatment with the commercial ISPs so we don't have to track down landlords. Can you give me well, I know you just did, but I'd like to make the case again to them that this is holding back our build out. Maybe some numbers that you could send me would be helpful, I guess, in that.
I could do that. On the sign-up sheet, I think there's 50 some requests that we've made now to landlords, and I think we've only got like half of them have responded. And we do get pushback from some landlords who are like, I'm not signing that. You requested that I'm going to give you access to my property for the rest of my life. That's not happening. And Graham shaking his head because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. I know that if it was me and I owned the property and I had to sign that document, I'd be very hesitant. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but our town attorney has said we should not be changing anything in that document. We should just either get it signed or don't sign it.
Yes, that's the response. Yeah.
And okay, so there's 2 quick points. And yet they don't do anything with the commercial ISPs when they want to provide service. Right?
I'm not following you there. Say that again.
If say Spectrum wants to give service to an apartment, they don't have to
they don't have to get anything signed. They just go do it.
Don't the landlords see the irony or the inconsistency there?
I don't think the landlords have a problem with the tenants getting the service. It's the way the wording is in the document that's the problem.
They don't like the wording. Okay.
Yeah, the way the easement's written, then it's got a wide swath of, I think, 10 feet. And it was just, yeah, and I didn't sign it, but of course we ran it to my tenants anyways. I mean, I was there. But I was early, so it was before the agreements really came in, but yeah, and it's really a it's giving you permanent access. It's sort of
Right.
like a,
Right. And then
it
the
was
last question
like,
would be, when you say 25 haven't responded, can you give me an estimate of how many customers and that means?
At least one to
Um,
ones, or at least 25, but some of them are double, some of them
Yeah.
are
like
Okay.
one of them is, for instance, 8 Library Street, and I think there's 6 people at that
I think three,
location that
three
have
of the
signed
6
up.
units have already signed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a pain in the neck actually to talk to these people about this, and they're like coming at me like, why are you asking me to get like, it's, wait a minute, it's not my fault. I didn't write the
Right.
agreement. But I can give you I can go do a deeper dive into that and get back to you on that, Dan.
Well, that's pretty good. I mean, only if you have time. You've just given me what I need.
Okay.
I mean, the thing about the agreement was we have one that we sent to Graham and the initial batch of property owners, and some signed, some didn't. And then we requested a revised version with our broadband firm, and they're like, to really do this the way that you want to make sure everyone's covered, you want to have drawings and surveys and diagrams and show exactly where on each parcel each bit of fiber is underground, aerial. And we're like, at that point, I think we had like 30 customers. Like, we just don't have the resources to hire a survey team to go in and do design drawings on every one of these. So we did not move forward with that different version of the agreement. It's just a hurdle that Spectrum, other providers that are providing cable or telephone don't have to cross. They just have the right to go on. There is a piece of the perpetualness of the agreements in that if a property owner has Dryden Fiber and they've sold the property, we wouldn't want to have to go rip it out and then reinstall it for the next property owner. So there's some of it's supposed to be there for the long run, just like the phone lines that are there just carried with the house and other utilities.
And Dan, another good example is the property over there. I can't remember the name of the road. Starts with a D. Tony Palumbo owns it. Deidre. Yeah.
Keebler.
Yeah. So he owns the entire road. I don't even know how many houses are on that road, but we can't service any of them once we get there until he signs an agreement. I've actually met with him, and he's interested, and he's willing to go ahead with this, but he's like, I want to see what you're going to do before you're going to be doing anything on my road. So that's probably 25 potential customers that we can't get to until we get something signed from him.
Yeah, I think it's at least 25. It should be noted the road itself, I believe, is a town road because the town plows it. But yes, he owns every property on that road is owned by him.
Correct.
And they're all either duplexes or like there's a couple of duplexes, there's a couple of quadplexes. I think one's a
Yes.
3. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And also these trailer parks, I mean, these people are desperate to get the service, but I know what I went through for that one over there on Kirk Road.
Yeah.
Is like, we finally got that all squared away and we're doing installations there, but we have several more of these that are out there and we can't do anything.
Yeah, those are
those-
combined issues of property owners signing off on the agreement and the intense density of those parks where we can't go underground. Aerial is not easily a solution. We're gonna have to most likely in both Fall Creek Park and Little Creek homes put in our own telephone poles. They won't be as tall as the current utility poles that are around town, but we are gonna have to put in poles and run lines from our fiber out to those poles to the individual houses. It's a big project. It's a big investment for us to make that move to service them. And it's not something that we necessarily are going to do in the winter. Also, it's not it's one of the many priorities we've given Advantage.
And isn't that also an opportunity to maybe use some of the Calyx equipment or something where you could do a slightly different model of it with just lots of Wi-Fi? Potentially, I mean,
Um,
or does it
potentially,
not lend itself to that? But,
I think as a fiber focused company, we'd want to maintain fiber to the home as the method. If we did offer service to a park or a community center, maybe that would be done through Wi-Fi. But for fiber to the home, I think we would want to provide fiber, not Wi-Fi. We're probably not there yet, but we could talk about that as part of
And
this committee.
I think that the guys at Integrity have echoed that they're hesitant, if you will.
it's a big support problem because there's a lot more problems when you have
Definitely
that kind of
is, yeah.
setup. So I think
Yeah.
so, but it's just, if you're going to have to put in lots of poles and other things, and it gets to be, well,
Yeah.
it's expensive to install basically.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to make sense. We
Yeah.
we haven't seen any design drawings or budget requests because that was coming together right as we were terminating our partnership with Hunt.
Yeah.
So it's on the to-do list, but as Tracy mentioned, there's a number of other projects that are easier to get moving with Vantage in the winter than those particular park projects.
Exactly.
Do you want to talk about this updated inventory document, Tracy, at all?
Sure.
You don't have to.
As you can see, if you look down through this information, we have plenty of material on hand. Actually, I don't think this has been updated. I missed this. Sorry. Those numbers are not correct. I don't think any of them are correct. We've got way more inventory than what's listed on here. But even if we were using this as our installation inventory, we're in pretty good shape, but it's probably triple that now. I'm sorry, I didn't even think to do this one, Dave.
All right, we'll check this one at the April meeting.
Yes, I'll come back to this and get it taken care of.
Awesome. I know Andrew's here. Andrew, you want to talk to the customer service slide?
Yeah, sure. So these are the numbers for the calls that came into the help desk for February. And looks like we took about 109 calls. Majority of those are definitely still the install orders and create service, but there was some support issues with some user error, which actually I think took the #1 ranking this month, which is nice. Those are just simple education calls. People just making simple mistakes or needing some clarification on how things work.
One thing we don't have it on here, but I know in the sum total, we've had some months in the 140s and 150s. I wonder if that number has gone down, the other / unrelated, as we put the new phone number in play.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of that and outage. In the past months, we've had
Sure.
that obviously boosts the numbers too.
Gotcha. So I asked Andrew if there was any specific anecdotes. I'll share this entire deck with the Broadband Committee after the meeting. I wanted to share, these are just not in any particular order. There's 5 of these really interesting stories from our customers. Do you want to just take us through this one, Andrew?
Yeah, I took all these just from the month of February, so they all are recently within the last, within the month of February. So in this one, we had a customer call in early February because their internet was not working. So we went through some basic troubleshooting and found that the service itself was working, and online we could ping all the her house. It was responsive. So she started looking at her equipment and found that she wasn't using the Plume device. She was using her own Deco router, and it had no lights on. So we unplugged it and plugged it into a different outlet just to make sure that it wasn't an issue with the outlet itself, but the router it wouldn't come on at all. So she discovered that the reason that her internet wasn't working was because her router had failed and needed to be replaced. She was very, pleased with the support because she didn't really know what was going on, and we were able to help her pinpoint the problem, and she was able to see with her own eyes that certainly that was indeed the problem, since there was literally no lights coming on at all on her own personal equipment. So she was able to go and get a new router.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I put a little, I separated the I guess the final response from the customer on each of these. So as I flip through some of these slides, it's pretty consistent. Her problem was solved. She thanked me. End of the call. This is the person speaking are members of the Integrity and Andrew's support team. When it says she thanked me, once the PC was restarted, they were able to continue working without any further issues.
Yeah,
I
that
followed
last
up
one you
with
had
this.
to.
So like this really, really deep dive stories into what's going on with people and how Integrity is servicing them, being patient with them, talking to them, and all of them have the same basic answer, which is happy with the customer service. And some of these are pretty detailed, like back and forth, the detective work from the customer support team at Integrity. Thanks, Andrew.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Sounds great.
Okay. For marketing, some high level details. Total under contract now is 336, which is plus 42. I highlighted that a year ago on March 1st, we had 32 installations in 3 months. No, we had 32 total installations and we had 4 installs in the months combined of December, January, and February of last year. So in 3 months, we had 4 installs a year ago and 32 total. And this month we had 40, we had more installs this month than we had the entire platform to date a year ago, with 42 new ones this month. Also requests, since the beginning, we're now over 1,200 total requests inbound. Around, I think around 75 or 80 of them are from Caroline, and the other 1,100 plus are from Dryden. Or so, there's a few that are outside of Dryden and Caroline. And this service will live, the number of people who have requested service that are in the green zone, so the number that are live is up to 79%. You can see where it was last summer. As people are signing up for the service that are in the green zone, we're getting them installed. At some point, we could scrub the list. As Tracy said, some people signed up multiple times. We only count them as being live with service once, even if their request was in the green zone multiple times. So we're moving in the right direction. People want the service in the green zone, they ask for it, and we're getting it to them.
And just so you know, there are currently 32 already scheduled on our schedule. So
For March.
we're not stopping. We're still going forward.
What's the current average wait time from when the person confirms, yes, I want it, for the install to happen?
It's pretty close to 2 weeks, unless somebody says, we have customers. We had one in particular. They are actually in India, and I sent an email to them, and they said, yeah, we'll be home the 2nd of April. Can we schedule our install for that time? So that's the only reason why somebody wouldn't get scheduled quicker is if they request us to
Right.
move them out further. But I thought it was interesting that this lady called me, or actually she called me from India. It's like,
Yeah.
this is weird.
So, all right. So about 2 weeks is now the average. So this is from when they say I want it. They're in the green zone. They say I want it. They arrange the installation. Right now we're running about 2 weeks.
If we get to your house, Tony, we will do you the
I'm
next
not
day.
asking for that reason. I just want to know what the average install time is.
Yes, that's pretty much normal. And the only reason we're doing it, the Integrity has from the beginning been instructed that they needed to schedule things at least 2 weeks out
Yeah.
for Clarity. I know that Clarity can move things ahead if we needed to, because they have done it for us. But for the most part, that's what we're doing. It's a 2 week
fine.
out.
No, that's good. I want to make sure it wasn't like 4 weeks, right? So people are waiting a month to get service after we've told them they can have it, right?
Right.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. I think that was it for this part of the meeting.
I
Great.
agree with Rick.
Invitation. Oh, so there's 2 more items. These are things that went by email, which is there's an invitation to participate in the zoning rewrite deliberations. Tony, who is on the planning board, is also on this board, has volunteered to serve representing both the Broadband Committee and the planning board.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
know that this committee has a lot of input related to zoning, but maybe we'll see. But so if anybody has anybody wants any information on the zoning rewrite, there's going to be public hearings coming up and all that. We'll be reaching out for more information. I can bring back information, but if there's things that we want to bring forward to the planning board who is working on this rewrite with a consultant, please let me know.
It would be only if we're going to increase density a lot someplace, and do we have enough fiber to get serve those sort of densities?
That's a good point.
So-
Yeah, so as as we're looking at, oh boy, I didn't even think about that. You're right. One of the things in the comprehensive plan is there are areas of the town that we've kind of focused on, possibly for cluster development and that kind of thing, right? And you're right. That's going to be a question: is there enough fiber there to? That's a good point, Graham.
Yeah,
We're-
so we
we
just want to sort of plan, it might be, oh, you throw an extra conduit in
Yeah.
or whatever, or maybe, I mean, I have no idea, but we want to we want to sort of be cognizant of that when they're doing the engineering probably,
Right.
so.
yeah, it's a
If
good
they're
question.
going to have very large changes, so.
That sounded very
housing-
much like a volunteer to be on the planning board.
What's that?
I said that sounded very much like a volunteer to be on the planning board.
Oh, yeah. We need some alternates on the planning board, by the way, if anybody's interested.
Everyone's so quiet now. All right.
And they wouldn't let me on the other board when I tried a long time ago. So.
Next item, the Community Connections event, which is sponsored by the Dryden Rotary and the Dryden Kiwanis, is coming up on March 29th. It's 11:01 at the Neptune Hose Fire Station in the village of Dryden. I signed us up for a table so we can talk about Dryden fiber. I don't mind sitting there alone for a couple hours on a Saturday, but if anyone else from the committee would like to join me, I welcome you to come and hang out and talk about your experience and on the committee. This is not necessarily like a marketing event for this as a service, although that's kind of how we're using it. It's a goal of this event is to get people in the community to know what volunteer opportunities there are to join boards, to join committees, to give hours to organizations. So I'll be there representing us both in that, like, for those options, but also let people know that Dryden Fiber is available for 29% of the town.
Yeah, and I'll be at that event too, but I'll be primarily there for Rotary but I also want to be able to represent the planning board too, because like I said, we need some volunteers on the planning board.
Yeah, I think there'll be some town board members there as well.
Oh, good.
And I know Rail Trail is going to have somebody there. I haven't heard from Dryden Rec, but I'm really hoping to get somebody from Dryden Recreation there as well, and possibly Climate Smart.
Good.
Okay. Before I go to the last item on the list, any additional discussion Q&A we want to make sure we put on our next agenda for the 21st? I do expect we'll use part of that meeting for the plans from Vantage. What the next 2 years looks like working together.
Yeah, I'd really like to see that.
Yeah, I would too,
I
so.
think that'll be good to look at.
Cool. All right.
There's
I
a
did-
comment. There's a comment in the chat, David.
Oh, map updates. Yeah, the map's a month old because we've hired a new engineering firm. We do expect the plan for them to come sometime next week to the week late in the week. And then following that, we'll be updating and refreshing the maps. I would expect sometime around April 1st with what things look like as they reassess, finish the audit, and make the plans for going forward. That includes those new parcels in the village of Dryden. Those will be turned green with their first update. But everything else, the yellows and the blues and the oranges, we'll be evaluating that between now and April 1st. All right. I would like to now request to move to executive session
Yes.
to discuss something related to a potential litigation. So for members of the Broadband Committee itself, you should stay. And for everyone else, we will meet again on Friday, March 21st. So thanks for everyone. And for committee members, please stay around.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
I thought we were going to
I'm
discuss.
not on the Broadband Committee, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
Mark and Kate.
All right. I'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you.
I am Dave, is that correct?
Not actually, the IMA says there's 2 seats on the committee, but we're still processing the IMA. So
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
yeah,
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
thank you. Graham, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna, I thought we were gonna discuss the quality of your signs and how they break off at the base, but
We can talk about that.
no, I was just being facetious, sorry.
Did one of the signs hurt somebody, Graham? What happened?
No, yeah, they're now starting to snap, so now we need more
Okay.
signs, so it's just the quality of the
When did it
sign.
blow off
The
and
quality
going-
isn't commensurate with our service.
Okay,
That's
got it.
basically what's going on.
So it's a perception issue. Got it.
Yeah, so
It's not the actual signs, it's actually the metal.
it's the metal supports for the signs of not being stellar, let's put it that way. So
I think they're made to last a campaign season.
They've been there too long. Technically, we're not allowed to have the signs in the yards for more than a certain amount of time per array and the current zoning for signage.
So
Most
it's an
of
automatic sunsetting feature that the
That's
yeah,
Graham,
okay.
that is a feature. It's not a bug.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going
Okay,
to stop the
perfect.
recording as we move into this. That's what you do in executive session, right, Jason, Dan? Do you record those?
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah, you turn,
record.
you don't